Welcome to Letterbox Book Club. My name is Claire,
And I'm Mackenzie.
and this is our first one. Well, first little book chit chat. How you feeling, Kenzie?
I'm so excited to start this. This is very exciting.
And we are happy to kick it off with a book that Book Talk really kind of influenced us by. We're going to be talking about A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And yeah, pretty keen. Good read. And Kenzie will read us the blurb and we'll get re-immersed and have a chat about it.
This is a book that reignited my love for reading. So, Feyre is a huntress. The skin of a wolf would bring enough gold to feed her sisters for a month, but the life of a magical creature comes at a steep price, and Feyre has just killed the wrong wolf. Taken prisoner by a High Fae Lord, Feyre learns that her masked captor is hiding even more than his piercing gaze suggests. But as Feyre's feelings for Tamlin begin to burn through every warning she'd heard about his kind, a shadow is falling across the land. And if Feyre cannot fight it, she will lose everything.
Good way to kick us back.
How mysterious.
Very mysterious. And as far as we're aware, this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so there's going to be a lot of familiar and similar themes in regards to like the actual Beauty and the Beast tales, which is pretty good. My only question is, like, how far can you go calling it a retelling? I suppose it's a different, like, fantasy world in general. Like, it's not exactly like copyright, the idea.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's influenced by.
Influenced, yeah. I suppose, yeah. So long as you're not having dancing teacups and utensils and stuff, I suppose you're fine.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we're gonna get stuck into it. First part of the book essentially is Feyre's like family life, how she came about in the situation. She kills a wolf, which turns out to be a fairy. Long story short, and then like that night or whatever, another fairy wolf comes and like takes her away.
Yeah, big beast comes and takes her away.
Which we know to be Tamlin. It's fine. Feyre doesn't know that it's Tamlin. Initial early life, we are introduced to her family, Feyre's family, which is Nesta, Elaine, and her father. Although father seems to not have a name throughout this book, as far as we're aware, which is a little weird. Maybe he might not be as significant as we think. So what do you think about?
Yeah, it's interesting that all of the other characters, are given names, like Feyre's sisters, Nesta and Elaine. And then a lot of just villages where she lives are given names in relation to them in the story. But her father is never named, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, which I find a little unconventional, I would think. So initially, what do you think of Elaine and Nesta? And just remember, like they're impoverished. They're living in poverty right now.
Because I've read the other books, like we're coming into this from like we've read it and we're going to be giving spoilers or whatever. I just think that they're a little bit selfish in that they are relying on Feyre to go out and hunt and provide for them when they probably had other ample opportunity to also help provide for their family, but they're content with just letting their sister go out and do all the hard yards for them while they sit back in not comfort, but in as much comfort as they can get in.
They're all wallowing in their own bit of self-pity and in their own poverty. Because I know everyone pretty much hates their father because he has been knocked about by some creditors and he pretty much essentially gives up on life. He doesn't want to provide or take on that opportunity. Nesta is pretty like nasty to him in particular. Like it was described that she would purposefully, put his cane out of reach from him and he would then struggle to stand up and all that type of stuff. Elaine just likes to garden and she likes to overspend what little they already have. Like she wants the finest stuff despite what they have, which you got to really ration and budget your things when you're poor, and she just wants that bit of extra bit of happiness from it, I guess. Yeah, that sets us up their home life. The wolf Tamlin comes and explains to Feyre that she killed a fairy wolf, and then in the name of the treaty she can either die tonight or be taken away to Prithian and live with him.
Yeah, so essentially, she's paying a life debt, and the life debt is either you die or you come and you spend your days with us in our land.
And she traverses, or she's technically knocked out, and she with the assistance
humanely knocked out.
Yeah. And she goes over the wall that separates Prithium between the mortal lands, and she is not really greeted, but she is greeted by the environment of the Spring Court, which Tamlin resides in, and we meet the Spring Court crew.
Yeah, so it's a lot of still kind of world building and stuff, but it does get into the story pretty. I want to know your opinion on Lucien, because I obviously you can't tell from the blurb who the main love interest is going to be, and especially the way Tamlin was so standoffish at the start and stuff. I was shipping Feyre and Lucien a little bit.
Honestly, you could pretty much ship anybody with anybody in this book, I feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like Lucien, even so, was a bit apprehensive about Feyre being in the Spring Court. He wasn't immediately nice and welcoming. He was also a bit kind of defensive and very wary of her presence, because I'm sure he is not sure what Tamlin is on about. As the story goes on, we learn that Lucien and Feyre go on little hunting trips, although they don't really catch anything.
No, because we obviously you find out that the wolf that she killed for the pelt for the money for her family was a fae who shapeshifts. So she essentially killed one of their friends. So she feels awful about that, and she doesn't really want to hunt anymore because she doesn't want any more killing.
But yeah, and that's also probably why Lucien is a little bit you just murdered my friend. Why would I want to live with you as well?
Yeah.
But he trusts he trusts his High Lord in his decisions. And Feyre just doesn't know that he is a High Lord yet. He just thinks he's a very rich Spring Court dweller. And Feyre has a servant assigned to her named Alice. I quite liked Alice.
I like Alice.
She's kind of offers the elbow out, a bit of friendship and a bit of niceness about it.
Very motherly behaviour.
Yeah, very maternal type instincts.
Yeah. So in the middle of the book, in the meat of the book, before we get to the dare I say best part of the book, the last section, we're just kind of still world building, world exploring, finding out about things, and we're introduced to many different sort of magical creatures and things like that. Very kind of Dementor-ish, but yeah.
Very lesser fairy evil type of entities.
Yes.
We meet the Ator, we meet a Naga, and we meet a Boggy.
Yes.
And we meet a Surreal. And 3 out of the Ator, Naga, and Bogey are more lesser creatures who have been kind of seeping into the Spring Court boundaries. And Tamlin throughout the book and Lucien have kind of been dispatching them. Or it's more the Naga, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or all other lesser fairy creatures. Anyway, terrible entities have been seeping through the boundaries, and Tamlin has to slice them up.
Yeah, in his beast form. Rah!
big and scary. Very much Beauty and the Beast vibes, with the beast going off to kill the wolves and all that type of thing. But yeah, pretty much, the meat of the book is you can literally visualize it as Beauty and the Beast, Belle falling for the beast and...
Yeah, Tamlin doing nice things for her, showing her the glen and the river, or the lake, sorry, and all those sorts of things, and giving her paints. Very a la have a library, but instead of a library, it's here have a paint studio.
Although he does show her a library, I'm pretty sure. And he kind of... Yes. This is where we learn she can't really read or write.
She can't read, yeah.
So he has a little try at helping her, but she's apprehensive about it. We also learnt early on, actually, that Feyre is, funnily enough, free to do as she pleases amongst the Spring Court. And not a lot of humans dwell in these lands, so you'd think, a lot of people, or whoever see her, they'd probably want to try and, kill her or dispose of her. I feel like that's a bit silly, she's quite vulnerable as a human. She would not be able to match up against the fairy, although she did kill the wolf.
She is a good hunter.
So there's a blight amongst Prithian, and I just forgot to mention that everyone in the Spring Court is magically donned a mask. The mask cannot take it off, and we will learn about that, and I'll get Kenzie to explain, because she is very good at explaining things at a later time. But we learn of a blight, and Tamlin's job is to search for a cure, and he is essentially blaming the blight for all these like lesser fairy, darker, evil entities that are, reaching into his territories. He's trying to figure out what's going on. There's been a couple of incidences where, in the middle of the night, like a fairy's like wings were like ripped off, and like, are you sure he died? And it was kind of like maybe perceived as a threat of sorts, and other little, I forget of other little instances at the moment.
There was a head. They got a head in a basket or something.
Yes, a head delivered. And of course, when Feyre wants elaboration on all these happenings and the blight in general, Tamlin doesn't really say much. She tries to talk to like Alice and Lucien, and they don't really give her much. But Lucien did give her an idea that there is a creature, which is the cereal, can answer all of her questions. And so she asks how does she catch one, and then Lucien tells her, and she manages to succeed at doing it, which very protagonist, able to do everything with ease.
Yeah, very easy, very OP.
Very OP, yeah. And yeah, the cereal tells her that did he give her all the details, like that he's the High Lord?
Yeah, stay with the High Lord and you'll be safe. But I'd like to mention, if you're listening to this, I assume that you've read the series, or you have read at least the first book. So I'd like to point out that it's very clever, the wording, because there are 7 High Lords in Prythian. So yeah, the serial just says to stay with the High Lord. It doesn't like necessarily stay with the High Lord of Spring, like.
Yeah. So yeah, you get a lot of that throughout the series, is that tricky fairy language. Like, it's ambiguous enough, but it could mean anything.
Or just like expectation subversion.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so that's what she learns from the serial. Stay with the High Lord.
Yeah, and you'll be safe.
But yeah, alright, Kenzie, I'm gonna get you to explain the overall grand scheme of like Amaranth, like the curse or the blight.
Okay, cool. So a little bit further on in the story, we learn actually that it is not a blight on the land. Well, the blight is I guess I would call her a Fae Queen, a self-appointed Fae Queen, I guess, called Amarantha. And she basically loved Tamlin and wanted Tamlin as her king, and he essentially refused. And so she got really mad at him or something, but then to win back their favour, she threw a masked ball for them, for all of the lands, and the Spring Court all wore masks, but it was a trick, and she cursed them so that the masks are stuck on their head. Most of all the other Fae in Prythian are stuck in a self-made court called Under the Mountain with her, which is just a horrible place. And she, because Tamlin wouldn't love her, she said, you have 49 years?
7 by 7 years.
Yeah, you have 7 by 7 years for a human to fall in love with you, but the human has to hate fairies, which Feyre did at the start because of all the stories and things that they had been told.
Yeah, pretty much humans are inherently ingrained to like fear and hate fairies. Just because, like, human in a one-on-one, a human stands no chance, really. Yeah. So yeah, this is where we get the whole heavy Beauty and the Beast vibes. Fall in love with something that you hate the most, essentially, hates you. So we learn that, just to add, Amarantha is actually kind of like a rogue general-ish type of person, from the continent Highburn. She's under the King of Hightburn's thumb, but yeah, she's gone a little rogue throughout Prythian because she is vying for Tamlin's love and affection, in which he rejected. She is being a bit dramatic about all this. She can't take no for an answer, it seems.
Very girl bossing too close to the sun.
Yeah, it's giving I don't want to glorify murder, but I do want to, I love the empowerment of women,
Yeah.
Girl boss, gatekeep, girl boss, all the TikTok references. And yes, so that's essentially the whole big spiel. Alice eventually tells Feyre all this a bit later on.
Yeah.
And throughout the book, we learn that the Spring Court has a nice, fun little like custom that they celebrate, which is I think Kenzie's favorite part of the book, which is called May Fire Night. It's pretty much a celebration of the beginning of spring, celebrating like fertility, growth, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, all things that make it lands prosperous.
At this time, Tamlin and Feyre's relationship is kind of, I'd say they're friends, or they're a bit flirty at this point. And yeah, Tamlin is adamant that Feyre should like not attend or stay away because he
will be heavily influenced by the magics.
Yes, like he kind of opens himself up and tracks all the magical energy, and he essentially isn't really himself. And it's, as a High Lord, it is his privilege to perform a thing called a great rite, which is essentially find a female, have sex in a mountain pass or something like that, and then in a cave, and the rest of the folk who are in attendance are free to do the same with whomever they wish.
Yeah, I think it's just meant to be like a culmination of like all the magics, and then the release through sexual
through coitus. Yep, and obviously Feyre, being the young protagonist that she is, she will not sit still, so she has to suss around, and of course that gets her in a little bit of strife. She is confronted by 3 other like fairy folk who are trying to like take her away, kidnap her, or they're
trying to take her to a secondary location.
Because she's human, and like, they don't really have, they don't see humans that often, so obviously they want to kind of, they see an opportunity in front of them to be nasty. But then she is rescued by a nice fairy fella.
In quotes, the most beautiful or most handsome man I've ever seen.
I think it was the most beautiful man I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And yeah, he pretty much, he doesn't really introduce himself. He's like, thank you for finding her for me, or something like that. And
there you are, I've been looking for you.
So you remember that one, but not the beautiful one.
That's the most important one.
But yeah, he pretty much threatens the other fairies, and they let Feyre go. And so Feyre is in the safety, so we think, of this young fairy gentleman. And they kind of just have a bit of a chat, bit of a hang about, and then he leaves her be, drops her off back to the manor, I think. No,
he just scares him, because then she dances.
Oh yeah, she has a bit of a dance. Oh yeah, because then she sees Tamlin playing, I think, a fiddle or something, or some sort of instrument, and that she gets there, because they're still learning a lot about each other, but she finds that that's something that she likes about him. Because you wouldn't think a High Lord would be the one, doing like the grunt work, being a part of the band,
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Tamlin does his business as well. He kind of corners Feyre in the manor, I think, at some point, and have a bit of a...
Yeah. He bites her.
He bites
her
neck. Like
the beast that he is.
Bites her neck. And she quite likes it. And that's the end of May. Lucien is, like, tusking, like, you should have just stayed home.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Lucien would have had a fun night himself.
Yeah, the next morning he's just like, who did that? And she's like, your mate.
Yeah, your friend.
Yeah.
And yeah, do you have anything else to say about May? Because I know when I was reading it, you'd be messaging me like, are you up to that part yet? My favourite part.
I just liked the introduction of Rhysand, although I don't think he's named yet at this part.
No, yes, but if you have read the book, or the couple books in now, we do know that it's Rhys.
Yeah, exactly.
So a little bit after May, after all these incidents occurred, we get a visit from this May fairy
First
figure.
of all, sorry, just before this rush into this, there is like a point where Feyre and Tamlin admit their feelings for each other, and they kiss, and it's all very lovely, but then the next day everything goes bonkers.
Yes, please explain, because I think I need a bit of a memory jog myself.
Oh, good. So as we've mentioned as well, they received the head of a fairy or whatever, and so the mysterious man from Calanmai shows up, and Tamlin tells Feyre to get behind Lucian and he'll glamour her so that this man can't see who she is. And this man, who then we find out is Rhysand, comes in and is all like, oh, did you like my gift? Blah, blah, blah. Just threatening them, kind of like reminding him, you've not got a lot of time left. But Rhysand sees through the glamour and demands to know Feyre's name, and Feyre lies and says that her name is Claire Bedor, one of the girls she knew from her village at home. Rhysand says he won't tell Amarantha about her if Lucian and Tamlin beg before him, so it's very humiliating. I don't know if it's the next day. Yeah, so Feyre and Tamlin spend the night together, have the sexy times, but then the next day he puts her in a carriage and sends her home because he says it's safer for her at home. She can't be with him anymore, and he tells her he loves her, but she doesn't say it back. And she says that she should, and like she does love him, but she just can't say it back.
Yes, of course, the moment where, you learn that she's like kind of like the key, like, yeah, it just gets she gets slipped away like that. So yeah, Feyre returns home. We learned that Tamlin glamoured her family's memories, or mixed them up a bit, just to kind of
I think so they wouldn't try to come after her.
Yeah, or realise that Feyre's absence is in the world of Prythian or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and the family is like rich. Yeah, the family's rich again.
I was gonna say he sent them lots of money.
Yeah, everyone's happy to see her. Like, yeah, Tamlin messed with their minds to say that Feyre was like visiting or helping some aunt, but of course Nesta is suspicious from the get-go. So as I was reading this, I knew she knew something was up. Like, something just wasn't right. It turns out that the glamour did not work on her. She has too strong of a will to be influenced by such magic, and she wants to interrogate Feyre essentially straight away.
Yeah, she wants to learn everything.
After reading the series, it's quite weird how she would be so strong-willed about this as opposed to other things later on, but...
yeah, and interesting how her power is built up.
Yeah, for sure.
Already, even before she's influenced by certain other things that happen.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Feyre pretty much tells Nesta everything. And their father's gone off somewhere, I think, still.
Yeah. He's a merchant again.
Yes, he's going off on his merchant.
Someone, Nesta or Elaine, mentioned that Claire Bedor in the village has gone missing. And so Feyre realises that that's the name that she gave, and so something doesn't add up. And so she has to go back to Tamten.
Yes, I think she realises she kind of made that mistake. Like, because their whole place got, like, burnt down and everything. They were absolutely destroyed. And so
yeah, just destroyed their house.
Yeah, the Claire better household gone. And so, yeah, she's freaking out now, and now she has to go back to Tamlin because she knows something is definitely wrong. And here we are with the almost final, like, third of the book, which is pretty much the journey to and the journey of Under the Mountain.
Yeah, so she goes back through the wall and she discovers that the spring court has been ransacked.
The manor pretty much, not
manor,
destroyed, but yeah, ransacked, a bit of damage here and there. But Alice manages to find Feyre, and this is where she gives her the whole spiel about Amarantha and her relationship with Tamlin and the 7x7 years and the curse and everything. And then Feyre's like, freaking out. Alice warns her not to kind of go under the mountain, but Alice, Feyre being Feyre, she will do that.
Yes.
And it just gives me...
But also she says, like, don't go under there, but also this is the way to go there.
Before she even really gets a chance to go there herself, she does get captured.
Yeah.
And she's brought forth to meet Amarantha of Highburn in the flesh. Amarantha essentially gives Feyre, like, 3 trials in order to kind of save Tamlin and the Spring Court. Or she is to, at any time, answer a riddle. I do not have that up, but that's okay, we don't have to read it out. But did you ever figure out the riddle while you're reading this part?
No.
I didn't really try to, but...
I didn't try it, because I was like, I'm going to be told the answer. And
so, the 3 trials end up being fighting... I'm just going to say them as it is.
Midgard worm?
She fights a Midgard worm, and there is one that is like a reading thing, which we learnt that Feyre cannot read, so this would be a challenge. And then the third one was essentially killing 3 fairy people,
Tamlin.
and one of them being Tamlin. So the Midgard worm, because she is, the renowned little hunter that she is, she manages to do it with a little bit of ease, but it was also quite difficult.
She also breaks her arm through the skin.
And she does, yeah. But yeah, and this is where all the Amarantha and all the kind of lesser fairies and everybody who resides in the under the mountain, they were quite like semi-surprised and impressed, because they were kind of expecting her to just die outright. Because, what's a little human girl against, in this world full of monsters and creatures? Like, you'd think she wouldn't last that long.
Yeah.
And we learned that there's been a lot of, like, betting, because obviously, think of, like, Hunger Games, Triwizard Tournament-esque, people are going to bet.
Yeah.
And and it turns out that our boy Rhys has been betting for Feyre to win, so he's coming home a bit rich, which is nice.
Yeah. So also at this point, first of all, before the tasks, like the trials, she is beaten up and taken to a cell because Amarantha says that she'll have 3 tasks over 3 full moons, so 3 months essentially. So after the first one, she's beaten up, her nose is broken. Well, before the first one, sorry, her nose is broken, and Lucien comes and heals her nose. Good boy. But then after the first one, when she has broken her arm through her skin, she is infected, she is essentially dying. Rhysand comes to see her, and she essentially just tells him to go away. She doesn't need his help, and she's waiting for Lucien, because Lucien came before, so Lucien's going to come again. That's what she thinks. But then Rhysand offers her a bargain. He says that he'll heal her if she agrees to spend... At first he starts with 2 weeks out of every month, but then she negotiates it down to a week every month. And so he heals her arm, but it is a tradition in his court, where he's from, the Night Court, that when you strike a bargain with someone, it is marked upon your skin in the form of a tattoo. So on her left arm, I think it is, she gets a big black tattoo all the way down her arm and on her hand.
Didn't he kind of, like, in a way, pressure her by, like, hurting her already then broken arm in order to kind of get her to agree?
Yeah, I think he, like, pressed on it. But he also was like, you're gonna die anyway.
And we learned throughout this part that Rhys is known as Amarantha's whore.
Whore. And
kind of someone to do her bidding as well as betting her. Bid and betting.
Yes, as well as a do her.
So we don't know if he has any, like, ulterior motives. Like, is he really with Amarantha, like, on her side, or does he have his own stuff to deal with and he wants to use...
Yeah, is he helping Feyre just to prolong the inevitable, or...
Yeah, or to fulfill his own little plans. But yeah, the deal is done. We're up to the second trial, which is a kind of reading exercise. There's, like, a question, and there are 3 levers, and...
Yeah, so there's a question and 3 levers, and, like, above every lever, like, is an answer, I guess. So it's like a multiple choice question, but there's, like, a wall cage sort of thing, and on the other side is Lucien, and there's, like, a roof coming down on him. So if she doesn't get it right,
he's squished.
And Lucien gets crushed.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
And so as Feyre is trying to answer, she would move to, like, say the first response, and suddenly her left arm would be ringing with a bit of pain. And she's, like, freaking out, like, why is this happening? So she reaches for, like, the second one, I think, even, and it starts wriggling in pain, but she's kind of being stubborn about it. She really wants to choose the second answer. But then, I think at this point is where she hears Rhys's voice.
Yeah.
Through that bargain, being like, don't pick this one.
It's the third one. And
so, yeah, moves her hand over to the third one. Her left arm isn't in a bit of pain. So, she pulls that lever and it turns out to be right. Lucien is saved. She was also really stressing the hell out because, her and Lucien created a nice little buddy-buddy friendship that we love to see. And it would have been...
Yeah, that's her friend.
Although it would have been interesting to have someone like that killed off, like, at this point in a book series, because we know it's a book series. That would have been pretty cool, like the emotional ramifications of that, but alas, no. During this trial in particular, Lucien has some brothers from the Autumn Court who are kind of watching all this happen as well, and they're kind of probably rooting for him to die.
Yeah.
But anyway, they are left disappointed as Feyre succeeds, and then yeah, she's taken back to her cell, and Lucian comes again, I think,
At this point, yeah.
and he's like, does he see the tattoo, or does he just know that? Yeah. So he sees the tattoo. He kind of confronts her and is like, "Why would you allow like Rhys to heal you when he was coming back
Yeah,
that
why
night?"
would you strike a bargain?
But obviously Feyre didn't know because she can't read his friggin' mind.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they have that little bit of a tussle, but they're all right. Although Feyre does hold this against him, you know, throughout other books.
Yeah.
And also throughout this entire thing, Tamlin is like just sitting by Amarantha as all this happens, and he doesn't say a word. He doesn't acknowledge Feyre in any sort of way. He's just being very stone-faced and very.
Yeah.
He's just kind of holding himself, and
Tamlin is not reacting at all to anything.
No, you'd think because if it's the one person, I suppose he just doesn't want to show how much he loves her to Amarantha, I guess.
Because he knows that she'll hurt her even more.
But it was still annoying that he didn't do anything. Nothing. Like, it was just described stone-faced, not flinching.
Yeah. Except for the only time he did have any reaction was at one point when, so I guess like every few nights or whatever, Amarantha just has a party and everyone drinks and gets drunk and has a good time and dances. And Rhysand takes Feyre to these and he dresses her very scantily and puts body paint all over her so that he knows if anyone touches her. But so at one point, Tamlin, and Feyre are able to have a bit of a quick little rendezvous. Tamlin doesn't really say anything, doesn't ask if she's okay, after nearly dying a few times. He just straight away starts making out with her.
Just the little horn dog he is.
Little horn dog. And then Rhysand catches them. And so he has, and then because he is afraid of what will happen if Amarantha catches them, so he then starts making out with Feyre to cover the tracks.
Yeah, and of course, is Rhys doing this? We learned that Rhys and Tamlin's kind of relationship together is a very conflicting one. They really do not like each other. Is he doing this just to piss Tamlin off? Is he doing it as at the hand of Amarantha, or does he have his own sort of agenda happening?
Yeah.
We don't know. At this point, I was very kind of confused about what he was going to do.
Yeah, I was just like, what the fuck?
But yes, but we do learn that the body paint and everything, it's all for a reason. And yeah, so the third trial comes about, 3 months away, past, and Feyre essentially has to kill 3 fairies. She kills 2 of them wouldn't say easily, but she manages to do it. But it is revealed that Tamlin is the 3rd fairy that she has to kill.
Yes, she has to stab him through the heart. And it's revealed at this point as well and all throughout the book as well, there's so many things when Tamlin and Feyre are first starting to get to know each other and stuff, where Lucian mentions offhand, haha, for a man with a heart of stone, that sort of thing, and says a lot of phrases like that. Oh, you've got a heart of stone, or a man with a heart of stone, you still feel a lot, whatever, stuff like that. And it's always usually within earshot of Feyre. And then Feyre realizes that they were giving her a clue the whole time. And she leans in close and puts a hand on his chest and realizes that she doesn't feel a heartbeat. So he decides to drive the dagger in, and she feels it bend and brings it back out. And the tip has bent, so he does have a heart of stone.
And at this point, she also realizes the answer to the riddle, in which the answer is love. How cliche. We love that. And so Feyre, having completed the trials now with complete succession, and she just answered the riddle, even though she didn't really have to, considering she just completed the 3 trials. Amarantha, being that, darker, evil fairy entity, is kind of taking back her word. She doesn't like
and
this
she
outcome.
She says, oh, I said I'd free them, everyone under the mountain, but I didn't say when.
Yeah, she pulls that sort of BS trickery, and then in that moment, she just outright snaps Feyre's neck, or magically kills her, and so that was a bit shocking.
Yeah.
And then I think the magic of the curse must have lifted regardless, because then Tamlin just went straight for Amarantha and he rips her to shreds. So yeah, Feyre's dying. Yeah. She's on the brink of death, and I'll get you to explain this part, Kenzie, because you're really good at it.
So Feyre is in limbo, I guess you would call it. She says that she's suddenly not seeing through her own eyes, she's seeing through someone else's, the whole scene play out. And you find out in another couple of books that she was looking through Rhysand's. Or is it in this book that you find out it was Rhysand's point of view?
No, yeah, in this book, straight up, it was Rhysand.
Oh, yeah, it was Rhysand's point of view. Also, when Feyre's neck gets snapped, Rhysand calls out her name as well, anyway. But so she's in limbo, and she says that she feels like a bit of a tug, like to hold on and like come back. And so she's holding on to it, and she does eventually like decide, oh, I will stay. Like, I'm not going to die. I will stay. But, so yeah, while she's in limbo, Rhysand uses his mind power to go into the minds of all of the other High Lords and convince them to help Feyre, to give her like a kernel of life because of what she did to help save them. So they all go out to her and offer her, like, I guess, a seed of their power, of a life force, to bring her back. And in doing so, it transforms her into High Fae.
And she's brought back to life with ease. And yeah, she's essentially just resurrected. We know she's an immortal High Fae now, and that's it. Really, the end. They kind of go back to the Spring Court, and I'm pretty sure that's where we're going to pick it up in the next book.
But first of all, sorry, before they go back to the Spring Court, they spend one more night under the mountain just to like ensure that everyone's getting home safely, like everyone's like sorted out. And Feyre says that she feels like the tug of that, like a tug again. And so she goes out and she finds Rhysand, and he has wings that she has never seen before. And apparently that no one else has seen before, and they just have a little chat. And then she says that he like kind of like has a moment where like he snaps and like just looks at her like as though he's seen something like bewildering, essentially. And if you've read the other books, this is a big spoiler, so stop listening if you haven't read the other books yet. This is the only spoiler warning I will give for this series because this is important. So this is the moment where for him he realizes that Feyre is his mate.
Boom. Mic drop.
But also we, as an audience, also don't find that out until about midway through the next book either.
Because if anything, Sarah J. Maas has taught us is you learn why things are done the way they are, why things happen the way they happen. Everything is revealed sort of a little bit later on. So you're just got to be a bit patient with this.
Yeah.
Finally back into the Spring Court, which I think that's where we're going to pick up for the next book.
Yeah.
So overall, I reckon Feyre, she has to have powers, like, of some sort. She has to. Yeah. And I wonder if that's something we're going to be leaning into for the next, I guess, the rest of the series.
Yeah, because she took, a kernel of life and power from all of the High Lords. So to give life, they would have to give essence of themselves.
So surely she gets a bit of everything, which should be pretty exciting. So yeah, overall, how'd you find it? Thoughts, opinions, emotions?
Yeah, I loved this book. As I was saying at the start, this is the book that like I hadn't read casually in a really long time, and thanks to Book Talk, this is the book that got me into reading casually again. And I think I devoured this. On my first read, I read through all 5 books in one weekend. Like, I just wanted more, and I devoured it. And then upon my second reading, and especially now that I'm doing a second reading of Throne of Glass series as well, there are so many hints and clues about things that are happening, and so many just like little like pockets of information that you need to hold on to. So it's a really interesting book, 1, just to read, but then 2, to reread and like realize where all those little hints and clues were along the way.
I found, because I remember you were like harassing me, like, you gotta read this book. Which is good because it just kicked me back into gear of reading again, because I hadn't read like for leisure in like such a long time, which also was a bit of a con in itself, because I found myself not being able to really immerse myself in the book. I got maybe until maybe the Under the Mountain part where I felt really like transfixed in the story. I found it just a wee bit boring, but then again, I feel like I hadn't been able to immerse myself that much. But overall, I really enjoyed it. It was a good like book settler to kind of get back into it. Heavy Beauty and the Beast themes. And looking forward to what how the rest of the series goes. Amaranth is dead. Does that lead to more conflict implications with Highburn? I reckon.
Yeah, because there's mention of Highburn, so you would think that he would come in.
Yeah, for sure. And we're just gonna have to wait and see. And
so the books do get bigger, but this is like a pretty average size book to begin with. I'm just trying to get a page.
I have the collector's edition, but
I would say it's about...
Mine says 433 before acknowledgements,
Yeah.
but it is the collector's edition. So I don't know if there's extra sneaky pages that I'm unaware of yet, because I haven't yet to fully read the collector's edition book yet.
Yeah, so I would say it's about 430, 450 pages. Quite small, it's quite easy to get into. I read it in a couple of hours in an afternoon, essentially. So yeah, it's great. Highly recommend. The other books are, like, do get quite a bit bigger, but they're also separated into sections, so you could just read, like, part 1, call it a day, like, call it a rest break, and then read part 2.
Yeah, a lot of them moving forward have at least, like, 3 or 4 parts. But yeah, it's breaking up quite evenly. I think that's it. And yeah, you were just so excited about this book that you got me on board, and then yeah, we just decided to, have a cheeky little podcast to try and like give an excuse to read and talk about things together. It's great.
And to make sure that we kept reading books.
Yeah, exactly. I just need to get a rig along with the current book I am reading, but that's okay. But yeah, thanks for listening. I hope we have similar, ideas and opinions. Would be fun. Thank you, Book Talk and Kenzie, for this, because yeah, I've been seeing a lot of ACOTAR on my For You page, and I'm just like, what does all this mean?
Yeah,
and
same.
like,
and I was like, oh, fine, may as well.
And like, you see, before reading the book, you see all the like videos about like Reese's character, and you're reading the book, and you're like, where does this guy pop in? And then
yeah, I was like, who is Reese, and why does everyone hate Tamlin? He seems really nice right now.
Yeah, but yeah, final thoughts on like Tamlin and Feyre's relationship. Surely they get like married. Like, they love each other. They've pronounced they love each other.
Yeah, exactly. They're very much in love. She saved him and his entire court, and she did it because she loved him so much. So I hope that the next book is all about marriage and weddings and stuff.
Maybe a little bit lighthearted, I hope. But yeah, very ending Beauty and the Beast vibes. Belle gets the Beast, Feyre gets Tamlin. We love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Keep an ear out for the next installment of the book, because we are definitely going to be talking about the rest of the series, because we want to see this to the end.
And make sure to like and follow our Instagram page, and you'll find us at Letterboxbookclub.
Wonderful.
Bye, everyone.